Okay, I've been doing this a long time. And when a home doesn't sell, it's almost never the photos, it's almost never the marketing, it's price. That's the part most people don't like talking about, though. They just don't like talking about it. But if you're thinking about selling, you deserve to understand how pricing actually works. Because pricing doesn't determine whether your home sells, it determines your actual leverage. And most homeowners don't realize how quickly that leverage disappears. Here's what I mean. Two homes, they both hit the market the same week. Similar size, similar condition, similar neighborhoods, if not the same neighborhood. One is priced right at market value. Bang. The other one is priced just 3% higher. Not crazy outrageous, definitely not greedy, just slightly above. Let's fast forward. First home gets strong activity almost immediately. The second one gets a few showings for sure. Probably the same people are looking at the other house. But it gets feedback about what? Price. Let's fast forward 30 days. 30 days later, first one is sold. The second one is reducing. It's on the price reduction list. It's still on the MLS. Same market, just different positioning. And just so you know, that's not luck. That's mechanics. We don't make the rules. And here's the thing. Most sellers never see the mechanics. Unfortunately, they just feel the result. So let's break down how this actually works. Every home has three forces in it. Okay? Three. The market, the homeowner, and us, the real estate agent. The market itself sets the boundaries. Interest rates, supply, right? Demands, competing inventory, the market, the economy. Guess what? No one can control those. We can only adapt to them. The homeowner controls what? Condition of the house, terms of a sale, should we get an offer in, but most importantly, they control the list price. List price is ultimately the homeowner's decision. Our responsibility is to make sure that decision is educated and informed. The agent's role is to interpret the data. That's our job. Position the property, expose it properly, and negotiate strongly. Okay? When those three forces align, homes sell efficiently. When they don't, frustration sets in. And here's something I teach all of our teammates at the Trilliant Real Estate Group. Conflicts arise when expectations differ. Think about that. If a seller expects one outcome and the market delivers another, a potential conflict is there, for sure. If the seller expects one strategy and the agent operates completely different, guess what? We got conflict. Most failed listings aren't about effort. Furthest thing from the truth. They're about mismatched expectations from day one. That's why pricing conversations matter so much. As uncomfortable as they can be, okay, they're so important. There are only three things that sell homes, okay? How it's priced, how it shows, and how it's marketed. Makes sense to me. Presentation creates confidence. So what I mean by that is the home is in tip-top shape and ready to go. Deep clean, you painted the walls, you know it shows well. That creates confidence. Marketing, that's us. We create the exposure. Pricing creates the urgency. And urgency creates offers. You cannot market your way out of being overpriced. I hate to tell you that. You cannot stage your way out of being overpriced. I don't care how clean it was, or how much nice paint you put up, you cannot battle the overpricing with those things. So if pricing's off, everything else has to work harder. And guess what? It achieves less. Buyers today are so smart. They know exactly what homes are worth. They're watching the market every day. They compare homes instantly when they come online, and they tell me all the time, hey, did you see that one coming up on 123 3rd Street? Yeah, I did. Seems overpriced. Or they phone and say, did you see that one on 123 3rd Street? What else would they say? Man, we better get in there. That's not going to last long. See the difference? They compare, what are they comparing? Square footage, size of the lot, what kind of updates they have, location where the home is. Is it close to a school? Is it close to shopping? Is it close to easy access to get to their work? Whatever it is, those are the factors that buyers are looking at. And here's what most sellers totally underestimate. Buyers eliminate properties faster than they shortlist them. I don't know how many times I can tell you I've reached out to a buyer and say, hey, what about this house on this street? And they go, nope, not interested. Why? Well, it's this or it's over, whatever. They've already eliminated them. If your home feels even slightly overpriced compared to other options, guess what happens? Just the exact same thing. It gets skipped, not hated, just skipped. Nothing personal. And guess what? It happens silently. And you'll never know how many times buyers have eliminated you. We only know about the ones that have looked at it. You'll never know about the ones that haven't. So let's talk about the 3% illusion. Okay? 3%. That's it. That's all it takes to mess things up here. On a $600,000 home, 3% is 18 grand. Okay? That small difference can move you out of an entire buyer search bracket. Think about it. Buyer search and price ranges, right? Up to $599, up to $625. They don't scroll endlessly. They stay focused. They scroll in categories. Now, the larger the home price, the bigger the categories. The lower the home price, the smaller the categories. By example, if they're looking for $350,000 homes, they're not going to look at $450,000 homes. But if you're looking for $600,000 homes, sometimes you might put $650,000, $675,000 in your search. All right. People are somewhat optimistic when they look at homes online. But they do scroll in categories. Okay. So if you price just above where the attention lives, like if you're just above that bound, guess what? You disappear. Before anyone even walks through the door, that's called silent elimination. They don't even know about your house. Most leverage happens in the first 30 days too. The first 30 days is so important. That's when serious buyers act. That's when new listing alerts go out. And that's when urgency is the strongest. We call it here our marketing bazooka. We shoot off because we know that's going to hit the most amount of people when you first launch the home. Okay, and if we launch properly positioned, guess what? You're going to get activity. If we miss it, we already talked about it. If we miss that window, your momentum will decline. Boom. And guess what? You never get it back. It's almost impossible. So being proactive is a strategy. Being reactive is damage control. Here's how overpricing usually plays out. Week 1, you get a couple showings, no offers. You have optimism. I get it. By week 3, you start listening to all the feedback if you've had viewings that mention price. By week 5, you give in. Yeah, okay, we'll reduce, but just by this. Week 8, we better reduce again. Now the listing feels stale. By week 10, now you have fatigue. What brings on that fatigue? What brings on that fatigue? You know what brings it on? Having your home ready to show every day and no one's coming up. And you're cleaning and it's making sure that it's ready. The kids, all that stuff comes into play. Fatigue sets in. And when that fatigue sets in, the goal shifts. It's no longer maximum price. It becomes just get it done. And that shift, guess what? It costs money, real money. That's the emotional cycle of overpricing. Even if you push pricing high and get an offer, There's one other thing you got to be worried about. There's one more gatekeeper. That's the appraisal. The appraisal, if the appraisal doesn't come in high enough, there's only three outcomes. The buyer has to bring more cash, the seller reduces the price, or the deal will collapse. Always got to be careful of the appraisal. Most buyers don't suddenly find $20,000 either. Okay. So when price gets renegotiated most all the time. And now you're negotiating from a weaker position than if you had priced correctly from day one. Because now the market has seen you sit and seen the deal fall apart. Yikes. You don't want to be a collapsed deal. The first thing people always ask is, why did it collapse? Why did the deal fall? We'll say financing, whatever it is. We don't always disclose that, but you got to be really careful when you fall on appraisal. That can hurt you in the future. Pricing above market doesn't just risk showings, okay? It risks the financing, just like we just said. Leverage is not created at the offer table. It's created way before you list. Leverage comes from scarcity, okay? Competition, urgency, and that confidence that we spoke about earlier. When you're priced correctly, buyers feel pressure. When buyers feel pressure, they protect their offer. They shorten their conditions, they increase deposits, and they avoid unnecessary demands. 1,000%. When you're overpriced, guess what? Buyers are in control. And buyers who feel control negotiate harder. Pricing determines who feels urgency, and urgency determines who has leverage. Let me give you a real life example. We worked with a seller who had done beautiful upgrades. They loved their home. You could tell. Everything was perfect. When we reviewed the data, unfortunately, our recommended range was slightly below what they had hoped for. We walked through the competition. We walked through buyer behavior. We talked about the first 30 days, and they said, I wouldn't say reluctantly, but it's, they said, okay, we'll trust the strategy. We launched at market value. We had strong activity immediately. Guess what? We got multiple offers. But more importantly, clean terms. But here's the biggest difference. Guess what? They felt calm. They understood the why before we ever listed. They didn't need optimism. They needed honesty and accuracy. To me, that's alignment. At Trilliant, we call this the right price promise. We commit to this. We commit to clear data, clear competition, clear buyer psychology, and clear risk explanation. We will never, ever, ever force a price on a homeowner, ever. But we will always recommend one based on market evidence. Because when you hit the market responds quickly. And you only get the first impression. Let me rephrase that. You only get one first impression. If expectations are not aligned with the market before you list, conflict is almost guaranteed every time. And real estate conflict is expensive. Alignment isn't strategy. It protects relationships, stress levels, and ultimately your result. If you're thinking about selling, the conversation should not begin with, what do you think we could list for? It should begin with, what is the market telling us today? Think about that. It's not, what can we list for? It's, what is the market telling us? Where do we fit in that market? That's a totally different way to look at it. All right. I'm going to tell you, if this philosophy resonates with you, we as a team would be honored to guide you through the process. But wherever you list, make sure the seller, the homeowner, the agent, and the market are aligned before you go live. Because alignment is where that creates the leverage. We've already talked about it. Everything you want exists on the other side of fear. And remember, knowledge is your superpower.